Oh, never mind. Good.
All right, we good now?
Yeah.
All right, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Fans Union for the fans by the fans. Pretty big weekend here amongst the panel for sure. So we'll definitely get into that. But first, fellas, actually before anything, I'm looking up. Kennesaw State up 21-7 on old FIU.
Nice.
I
Let's
think
go,
their only
Boots.
two losses of the season are to Indiana and Wake Forest.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure.
First two games of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. 10-9 to Wake Forest, and they obviously got beat pretty good by India. I looked at
Yeah,
it
that
today.
and that was pretty telling of what was going to come with Indiana this season. I feel like that was Kennesaw State gave us the earliest omen.
100%.
So cool. Well, obviously, if you know us at all or if you paid attention to the show at all, which I hope at least the latter you do, um, you guys know that we're three Bulldogs and a Rebel. Not the state Rebels, and not the state Bulldogs. We're the Georgia Bulldogs, not the real arch enemy. But Georgia and
And
Ole
not the
Miss this
running
weekend.
Rebels either.
That's true. Yeah, that's Danny and them. Also,
Yeah.
um, but
Facts.
probably the game of the weekend, no doubt about it, is Georgia, Ole Miss. Ole Miss was ranked number 5. Georgia was ranked number 9, and can honestly say I think we're all pretty surprised how that one turned out. Maybe not of who won or who lost, but definitely the fashion in which it was done. I didn't think it would take Georgia basically having scoring every possession of the game. Funny little thing. I saw somebody on Twitter say, "But what kind of drive was this?" And it was the last drive when they took 3 knees. It was 3 plays, negative 3 yards. So that was pretty funny. But God, what a game! What a non-defensive game until the fourth quarter for Georgia. Um, but I kind of just want to hear you guys. Not going to get into my little preamble because I did watched most of it honestly waiting for the South Carolina presser before I headed back to my watched it all the way back to my car and then listened to the rest of it on the radio. I did actually they were just showing a replay of it today on ESPNU. So I did actually get to catch the flow of the game. God, what a game. So whoever wants to fire it off first, go ahead because there's a lot to talk about in this.
Talk to him, Graham.
Wow. I didn't think I was going to be
Oh, that's what
elected.
you get for
How about
thinking.
the Gates? What was that, Joe?
I said that's what you get for thinking.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, man. I know there's going to be plenty of analytics that we'll be able to break down around the round table. And I do got two colleagues who, um, you know, are both excellent in that area. Way more well versed in that area than I am. So I'll leave a lot of the analytics to my brothers for later on. But I think what stood out to me to this game, besides the fact that it was an absolute shootout and slugfest, like Joey kind of alluded to, it was the fact that both of these teams' presumed weaknesses went in very different directions come that fourth quarter. Georgia's defense was able to step up. Well, Ole Miss's offense is definitely not their presumed weakness, but their offense really sputtered out. And I think that was really the tale of how this game ended. But beyond that, both teams showing a lot of willpower. Ole Miss, although in defeat, I do want to commend them for putting up the effort that they did on the road. I know that they are going on the road again this week, right, Logan?
Yeah.
Yep. So, back-to-back road games, for the Rebels. And it was by all means definitely not a loss that you have to dissect too much into when you're going into another road game back-to-back like that. So really proud of Gunner. I think that was his Heisman moment. If I want to, consider any of the other ones from, before then to be one. 5 touchdowns altogether, I believe, right? Responsible for. So an excellent game from Mr. Stockton. And he's really coming into his own in this quarterback position, leading Georgia's offense the way that he has. That is this team's strong suit this year. We can definitely hope and pray that the defense continues to develop as young as they are. Those guys need as many snaps as they can get, but this offense is what's going to be able to carry us to wherever, we ultimately go this season. So hats off to Gunner and the boys. some big plays from Dylan Bell as well. Some of the vets on this team stepped up when we needed it most. And ultimately, I was also proud of Schumann. Although all the shit that I've given him recently, he was able to tighten up his straps in the fourth quarter and carry us home as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Trip on that note.
Yeah, I mean, holy shit, what a game, man.
Yeah.
Before kickoff, I had some people over at the house and was asked what my prediction on the game was going to be, final score, and I said 41-35, so I was pretty close. And the reason why I said that is, you know, I was like, we're not going to be able to stop their offense. It's going to probably come down to who has the ball last kind of game. I was like, I do see us maybe getting a couple stops in late time, and I think we're going to run the ball efficiently. And I mean, that's the best this offense has looked all year. You know, just absolutely moving the ball with ease, having their way with all kinds of different plays. Really hated seeing Colby going down. He's been a huge X factor for us in a lot of these games. He's really what I expected Noah Thomas to give us this year, personally, but hopefully he can recover. And, you know, if we do end up making the playoffs, he'll be back in the mix. Shout out to Ole Miss, man. That's a damn good ball club. I think that a lot of people undermine what that team is actually capable of, you know, given the defensive struggles they've had this year. But Trinidad Chambliss is legit. That guy was giving us hell for 4 straight quarters until really the last couple drives they had the ball. So it was an incredible game to watch as a fan, you know, obviously biting my fingernails the whole time, praying to God we get a stop at some point. But I did have some stats I wanted to bring. So I'm going to pull this one up. This one in particular is crazy. So Gunnar Stockton went 12 for 12 in the second half of that game, throwing 100% for the second half. He is the first quarterback to go 12 for 12 or better in a half against an AP top 5 opponent since Aaron Rodgers in 2004.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I thought that's an insane stat. I mean, I also, one of the things I pointed out before in my prediction was, you know, we were going to have to get a game out of Gunnar like he did against Tennessee, and that's exactly what he gave us. So was really impressed with the run game mostly, though. Nate Frazier looked great. Chauncey had some really great runs in there as well. I still think Chauncey's RB1 in my opinion, but we'll see as the season progresses. The other thing I wanted to point out, and I know Graham might not like this one because I'm going to give Bobo some flowers here, but number one offense efficiency in the country is Georgia right now, based on by drives. So Bobo's been in his bag the last couple weeks. I know I give him a lot of shit, but he has definitely been in his bag the last couple weeks.
Trip, I had to depart the Bobo hate train to get on the Schumann hate train. So I can promise you, bro, it's been about 3 weeks since I hopped off that one.
That's fair.
But shouts to Bobo for sure.
Yeah, Bobo's
shouts to Lawson Lucky hat trick. Let's go.
Yeah, and that was the last thing I was going to touch on is, you know, us Georgia fans have been patiently waiting for when these tight ends are going to get incorporated more. I know there was one play where Oscar Delp was wide open down the seam and Gunnar never saw him, which could have been another huge play for the tight ends. But that was really the game changer for us this week. The only thing that sucks is right now, if Georgia wins out and so does A&M and Alabama, we still don't see the championship game because they don't play each other. So as a Georgia fan, we just got to take care of business and hope the other two somehow slip up in the meantime. But yeah, all in all, crazy game. One of the best games I've watched this year.
Before I get on mine, Logan, go ahead. The people want to hear you.
All right. Obviously crazy game. Trinidad Chambliss has proven that he's that guy. There's no doubt about it. You know, going on the road, SEC in front of 90,000 fans and putting on a performance like that is crazy. His box score doesn't jump off the page at you, but man, did that boy make some plays. And I mean, it's just wild to see that kind of game out of him and then look at the box score. And I feel like it's not really telling of what really went down. But with that being said, I'm like looking at the numbers because I'll be honest, I haven't really looked at the box score of this game at all. Like, this is my first time looking at it. It was like before the show, I pulled it up real quick. So Ole Miss and Georgia both had 6 receivers with 20-plus yards. That's insane to me. 6 different guys, and they had 8 guys catch the ball, but 6+ was able to get 20-plus yards. So I think that's a pretty impressive stat from both teams, to be honest. I think I mean, I said when I predicted Georgia that I thought this was going to be the week that them guys put together 4 quarters of good football, and I'd be damned if I didn't hit it on the head because, like, to me, this Gunnar Stockton game was like a Kevin Durant game. I never felt like Gunnar Stockton was killing us. And then I look and I'm like, good Lord, he's got 5 incompletions. He threw for damn near 300 yards. He's responsible for 5 touchdowns. Like, I remember OKC KD, you look up, he's got 48, and you're like, what? When did all this happen? Like,
all from mid-range.
Because it's like, yeah, exactly, all from mid-range. Nothing flashy, nothing too fancy. They're running the ball down our throats. Once we press, he hits us over the top for a 20-yard pass, hits us over the middle for a 30-yard pass. Like, it just felt like Gunnar Stockton had full control. Like, I'll be completely honest. And with that being said, the whole time I'm just thinking, kind of like Tripp said, like, whoever has the ball last is winning this game, or whoever turns it over first, or whoever makes the first mistake. Ole Miss starts off, hold them to a field goal, ends the half, hold them to a field goal. Sets ourselves up perfectly to start the half, go down, score. We scored quick, like 12 seconds or whatever it was. It was something crazy. It was a big 76-yard play on the second play of the half or whatever. Sets us up perfect. We stop y'all on second down. From that point forward, it's like, dude, we're in control. Like, we were already set ourselves up for not control as in like we're controlling the game, but it's like if we keep going tit for tat, like, we're in control. We got the 2-point stop. We're looking good. And then in the fourth quarter, we had the ball for 1 minute and 54 seconds. That's the game right there. 3 drives, 1 minute 54 seconds. That's depressing, is what that is. Kind of like Joey. But I went to the United game. We tailgated before. But the difference in me and Joey is I was like this the whole time. The entire time. There was a Michelob in this hand or a Modelo in this hand and my phone in this hand, dude. I was locked in. Like, I couldn't tell you what happened in the first half of the United game. Swear to God. Like, committed to that a little too prematurely a couple months back. So I was locked in. I was watching it. I think both teams looked good. I don't know. There's not enough things to say about how good Georgia looked, and we cannot stop the run to save our lives. Like, I mean, y'all are getting 4 and 5 yards at will, and then throwing another 12-yard on top of that here and there. So when you're sprinkling those in, it really is hard to stop y'all. It's kind of insane to think none of your guys' running backs got in the end zone. Pretty wild to see that.
Well, Frazier got in on like a little swing pass, but he didn't have a rushing touchdown.
That's what I mean. However, there was one play, Trinidad, I forget who it was for y'all, just completely blew by the left tackle. Trinidad jumps up in the pocket. Left guard starts falling back on him. He literally runs backwards and swoops around and outruns that guy to the pylon right there and just kind of knocks the pylon over with the football. That play was incredible.
I think is that the one where it's like a foot race with Raylan Wilson? I'm pretty sure. I think that's the one. Yeah, because
I don't remember everybody's name on your defense, but
he's number 5.
Sounds right. But yes, it was a foot race, knocks down the pylon. Another great play by Charlie Weiss Jr., which I kind of feel like we could have maybe incorporated this more because that formation was just seemed money, We had Austin Simmons line up at quarterback, Chambliss in the flats, Kawan Lacey on his right. This was the most filthy play call. I was jumping up and down in Home Depot backyard, freaking like a girl. Like, it was insane. So they send Chambliss in motion. Simmons, claps his hands for the hike. Everyone's obviously focused on Simmons and Chambliss. They hike it Kawan Lacey straight up the middle for a touchdown. I'm like, holy, like, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things for the defense to kind of have to pay attention to, and then you snap it to your running back, which we do that pretty frequently, but never have we done it with 2 quarterbacks in play. We kind of did that formation a handful of times. I would have liked to maybe once or twice try to see them to swing it out to Chambliss and have him on the option for a run or a pass. Seems like that could be something maybe we see in the future. But I do like that they throw that in there. Keep your defense on the toes right there. But I mean, all in all, you guys won. It's very depressing loss. I used to always tell Joey this: I'd rather lose by 100 than lose in a heartbreaker like that.
I'm the same way.
As soon as y'all stopped us on that first 3 and out, I was like, "That's ball game." Like, you could feel it, Like, the tide turned right there for me, and I was obviously still trying to stay optimistic and hopeful, but. Yeah, that's a tough watch. I hate watching my team lose a close one. I would literally rather be down by 40 in the first quarter and just be like, all right, this shit's over, But 100%. Wasn't the case. I did have one of my buddies that's a Georgia fan point this out. Correct me if this is wrong. I'm strictly going off of what he said. So he said that Lucky tight end, 3 touchdowns. First time in Georgia history a tight end's had 3 receiving touchdowns. If that is true,
That
I'm
sounds
not 100%.
right.
I'm saying I'm not 100%, but to think Brock Purdy, Jesus, Brock Bowers never did that is insane. So I mean, didn't have a crazy game, but the 3 tuds is obviously most important, getting in the end zone. So thought that was pretty crazy. Other than that, I mean, I said I thought Georgia was going to lose or win, and we would try to take care of Oklahoma next week. But then again, Mateer looks pretty good too, so now I'm still nervous. It's little deflating. However, I'm not mad at the performance. I do wish we could have got kind of more in the running game because that's clearly where y'all destroyed us. Y'all had 221 to our 88. Quan Lacey only ran for 31. He did find the end zone twice, so that's nice. But would have liked to see a little bit more balance in the offense from us. All in all, Kiffin's pretty good at keeping the balance. I think a lot of people ride the high of like Hugh Freeze and Lane Kiffin. Like Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss was very much air raid. Lane Kiffin in the past was very much air raid. But what people don't realize is since he's been at really FAU, he's had a very, very balanced attack, and that's what makes it so dangerous. This one, I mean, numbers-wise, we were trying to keep it balanced, but I mean, obviously, our success was in the air this game for the most part. We did have a couple decent runs, but I don't know. Fourth quarter, that's all it came down to. Fourth quarter, y'all play y'all's best football in the second half. It got dark in the second half. The fans came alive in the second half. It's not an easy place to win. It's never an easy place to win on the road in the SEC, especially against a top 10 matchup who that team also has 2 natties in the last, 5 years now. So clearly you guys got the upper hand. I just got to take it with a grain of salt and move forward because at the end of the day, we're still set up to make playoffs. We just got to take care of business. And I think we can lose Oklahoma and move on and still make playoffs. But the problem is Ole Miss is known to drop I'm saying this now. Ole Miss is known to drop one they shouldn't. So this Florida, South Carolina, Mississippi State, that stretch of games does scare me a little bit. So hopefully we can get back on the winning track and keep it trucking.
Yeah, for sure. There's a few things I want to add to kind of what everybody said. Really, this was a pretty clean football game. Combined 7 penalties, no turnovers. So, I mean, sometimes you feel like you're watching a banana slip fest or, like just yellow everywhere. It's egregious, but not this game. I think where Georgia really started to capitalize, in which especially showed itself in the latter part of the game, is winning on first down. There's so many times where Georgia is just on first down, 4 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, first down, like just constantly playing in front of the sticks. And I feel like that's been, especially like when it was happening with Auburn, of course, it's kind of the anomaly offensively that first half. But when you do that, you keep the defense on your heels, you keep them hands on hips, heavy breathing. And Georgia just ultimately imposed their will, just fatigue. So it's really powerful to speak to the machine that is there right now, because I think probably all of us, like, we knew we had Branch coming in, Noah Thomas, return of a lot of other skill players. We're excited about that, but we always assumed, the bread and butter of Georgia is going to be the defense, and it's been an opposite tale this year, obviously. But, I mean, Logan, you talk about that fourth quarter. I mean, Georgia had the ball 37 minutes in this game, and before that, it was the time of possession was Georgia had the ball for 23 minutes or 24 minutes. Ole Miss had it for 20, like 20 and some change, and Georgia ends the game with almost 38 minutes. So I mean that fourth quarter is just really powerful, and that's a place, man. That place, a lot of people who were there said that's probably the loudest they've heard that stadium in a long, long time. And when you get a place like that rocking, everybody's playing well, and the offense is in a position where they're scoring every single time they touch the ball, it's going to be tough to win anywhere. It's going to be tough to beat anybody to beat them in there. I mean, you got 500 yards in total offense, more than 500 yards, really. That's going to be a recipe for success every time. And I think it's funny, too, because I don't know as fans what we need to do, but like a lot of people can, say bad things about the defense because there's a lot of wrong on the defense. They did step up when they needed to, I guess, but put themselves in quite a hole per usual, like always, having to rely on the offense so heavily. I don't think there's many teams who play a team that's ranked higher than them, score every time you touch the ball, go to the end of the game, win, and then we're finding something to nitpick like the defense about. And I do it myself. But sometimes as fans, we just got to sit back, take a breather, and enjoy what we just saw, especially with a show like that. Because at the end of the day, yeah, is that defense going to have to get fixed to win a national championship? Yes. That's not our job. That's our coaching staff's job. Our job is just to sit down, have some cold units, and enjoy the game. And that's what I'm going to do for now, especially with having a team that, I kind of professionally, air quote that, cover. I'm really going to soak in and just enjoy Saturdays and not worry about the implications, but try and enjoy that. That's my challenge to myself. But it's just funny because I don't think maybe Ohio State and Alabama would be like the other fan bases, but nobody is finding a way to spin this negative, any part of this negatively. But that defense, when it had to step up, it came time when the defense, like Logan said, was going to have to get a stop for somebody to lose or for somebody to win. And being down 2 possessions in the fourth quarter, and your defense basically had 3? They had 2 3-and-outs, and then the last one was they got a first down the first play of the fourth quarter, and then ended up
turnover on downs.
Yeah, because they didn't get another. I don't think they moved the ball again, but yeah, it's a great day to be a Georgia Bulldog, baby. That's all I got.
I'll say this. I think anyone on this panel, if you would have said Georgia's offense scored every time they touched the ball, we'd all be like, dude, Ole Miss got smacked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Like being complained. If you would have said that about either team, let's be honest, though. Like if you said one of these teams didn't have a single stop, you'd be like, them boys got smacked. But I mean, to kind of go off that, that's one thing I did want to touch on is like, it's insane that you guys scored every single time you touched it. And it's also insane how efficient, other than the fourth quarter for us, how efficient both offenses were. I mean, like both teams between 4 and 6 minutes, they were scoring every time, other than the one quick big play we had. But I mean, every drive was between 4 and 6 minutes, and the team was scoring. It's like the efficiency in these offenses was kind of insane for me. But I mean, it is depressing seeing us like kind of deflate. And the thing is, like, I don't want to be that guy, like the Tennessee guy. Like we lose, but we beat ourselves. I'm not like y'all stepped up when it mattered. However, Chambliss made some bad throws in that fourth quarter. There was a couple drop passes in the fourth quarter. It's like there was a couple plays like that where it's like, damn, like if we catch that, momentum keeps moving. We don't maybe punt the first time or the second time when we still had the lead. So it's like there was a couple plays where it's just like I do feel like if we sharpen up in those small areas, the fourth quarter specifically, there was a couple drop passes, couple times where it looked like Chandler's just like, I don't know. It looked like his arm was hurt. Like he would just throw it. It's 10 yards in front of the receiver. You're just kind of scratching your head. Like, did I miss a deflection? Like, what just happened? And maybe I did. I was watching on my phone, like I said. But I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to be the Tennessee fan. Like, oh, if that was in Oxford, there's no way we'd have lost by 50. I'm not going to be that guy. But
if it wasn't raining,
it does excite me to know that, like, we're a couple of like caught balls or maybe like more accurate throws from really having more of a slugfest. But all in all, we talked about this in the group chat in week 2. This is a true shootout. When your teams are scoring, putting up numbers like this, yardage like this is the kind of shootout that I think when you say shootout. But I mean, shout out to the Dogs. They got it done. We'll be back in the drawing board facing the Sooners next week.
Yeah, maybe Georgia against Florida will make a big play on defense. Still no turnovers, no forced turnovers, and no sacks.
Yeah.
So
Kobe and the gang hit the club for my B-Day. We got in a shootout, but our pistol ain't jammed. I'm sorry to my brother, man. But you know how shit go.
Yeah.
We had to slime you out for the C-Day, you heard?
When they start shooting, we don't stop the music. Rest in peace, Prodigy. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we get into a couple of the big upsets from this week? All right, I guess we're good. Go Dogs. So 2 big upsets this weekend, 2 top 10 upsets, with Miami dropping a loss to God, why I just drew a blank. Louisville. And then Texas Tech losing to Arizona State. I know I watched the bulk of that Miami game. I kind of hated the because you obviously at my address and my at name we are a Carson Bet Glazer account. I kind of hated the Georgia fans are used to this, like I kind of hated to see it, but God, man, 4 picks in a game is brutal.
Should have been 5.
Yeah, I was like, could have easily been 5.
He threw some real stinkers, and it's amazing because I've seen him do that and be in every ball game that he does that in. Like, it's not like he's obviously ending possessions, but it's amazing to me how every time, like Alabama, he threw 3 picks last year and lost on the last drive of the game. That game is the anomaly of all anomalies, but it shows you in this sport, man. Any given Saturday, anybody can beat you, even if you have that impressive home field advantage that Miami has. Says nobody. But Arizona, again, Texas Tech on the road. That was a team that a lot of people were saying was going to end up, was arguably one of the best teams in the country. And they just got that big recruit Guyton from Savannah. So it seems like there was a lot of up and up going up there. Now, I'm not saying the season's over, obviously, but kind of puts a little bit of wrench in what they had. But this sport, man, this season especially has been what I don't know. Let me know if I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. This has been really one of the more eventful college football seasons I've seen in a long, long time.
No, I agree.
Long time, and I love it. It's especially like all the monotony that goes into following the sports. Like monotony is not the right word. Just kind of how exhausting it is. With you never know who's going to be on your team next year. The portal happening so much, recruiting. Flipping all the time. Like that's become such an exhausting part to follow. Hasn't yet, and I hope it doesn't, but Saturdays still feel like Saturdays. And at the end of the day, that's what I care about most. So, but more back onto the game. I just wanted to get my little spiel off there. 2 top 10 upsets. Big news. What we got?
Logan, you got anything on this?
Yeah, the Beck thing, I feel you, Joey, but it's like the track record kind of shows of like, yeah, Beck's going to have a stinker every now and then. But like you said, every time it feels like he's having a stinker, it's like, what do you mean you lost by 1 possession? You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
It always comes back to that.
Or win.
With that being said, as much as you can blame Carson Beck, if you're going to be a playoff contender and a real championship contender, your leading rusher has to have more than 18 yards in a game. Like, it was very one-sided. It's like if Beck wasn't moving the ball, they weren't moving the ball. But the problem was Beck would move the ball and then turn it over. So pretty unfortunate to see. Malachi Toney is the truth. That dude is
a bad man.
Real. He is a bad man. Like, that dude's a problem. And he's a true freshman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that dude. He's going to be a problem for some years, it seems like. He's fun to watch. I'll say that. And it's Jeff Boehm, right? That's the coach for Louisville. Braum.
Yeah.
Braum, yeah.
Okay, well, I saw that he's like 3-2 against top 10 opponents at Louisville, or top 10 ACC opponents. It was some crazy stat like that. They showed it during the game.
So he has more big wins than Redacted?
Louisville hasn't really been they haven't been no.
Oh, he's getting sniped.
Nobody.
Oh, man. Oh.
Sniped on stream.
I'm going crazy right now.
Okay. You're kind of coming back.
Okay, I think I'm good.
Yeah, real quick. Their coach is 4-0 against top 5 teams. That's his record. Is the one that you're talking about?
Oh my God, we lost
it. Even crazier.
Okay, I think you're back. No, he's not.
You know, hey, Trip, go ahead and take over. We'll let him get back.
All right, Logan.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. No, wait. You might be good now. Say something.
Something, but y'all just
Okay,
keep
you're
it
good.
moving,
You're
man. Ignore me.
Go. You're good. Go.
I don't even know what I was saying anymore, bro. Miami lost. Go Brom. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I was glitching bad.
Yeah. Well, I'll jump in here. Yeah, that was a pretty rough one for Carson. I really am tired of seeing the comparisons of Carson at Georgia and Carson versus Gunner and blah blah blah. Like, can we let that shit go? Like,
I was wanting to make a point about that and forgot. Yes, please elaborate on that.
The guy plays for the University of Miami, man. Like, and I like Carson. I was a big Carson fan when he was here. I wanted nothing but the best for him when he transferred. But the comparisons got to go. That's my biggest complaint about this whole thing. Now, if you throw 4 interceptions in a game, I don't care what quarterback you are, you're going to get looked at and you're going to be talked about on social media. But apparently, which I saw this, I didn't realize this, but it really doesn't surprise me. Mario Cristobal is now tied for the most losses as a double-digit favorite since 2022. He has 5 losses to teams that he was a double-digit favorite against in the last 2 years.
Nice.
And the other 2 coaches on that list that he's tied with, Hugh Freeze, Kalen DeBoer. So thought that was an interesting stat, but nonetheless, I think this game, I mean, obviously Carson Beck had a lot to do with them losing, but it was a huge credit to Louisville at the end there. I mean, I don't even understand why you're in field goal position. You got like 30 seconds to kill, and why are you throwing the ball anyway to give them even the slightest chance of turning over the ball there and winning the game? Like, all you had to do was stay in field goal range. You take that overtime. In my opinion, Miami was probably going to win that in overtime. But that's just hypotheticals. It was a really sloppy, rainy game. And if we're going to be honest, like any of these Friday night, Thursday night kind of games, like I feel like those always are kind of weird to watch. Like maybe it's just me, but I feel like you don't play your cleanest ball. But
now, there's like the freaks come out at night kind of element to it.
yeah. But I think Carson Beck was like 2nd or 3rd in the Heisman favorite list. Yeah, that's gone. He went from being like plus 300 to plus like 1,300 after one game. So I still think Miami's going to be fine. I think there's a very good chance, obviously, especially with what else is going on in the ACC, that they got a good chance of going to that game and possibly winning it. But this is a team that I was saying 2 weeks ago is the best team in the country, and so I gotta take my L's where I take them. But I think they're still gonna figure it out. They're gonna be all right. But their offensive line looked rough in this game. Louisville was having their way with the line of scrimmage on them. But that's all I got. Go ahead, Graham.
No, I think y'all did an excellent job covering on the Miami game. I'll go ahead and hit on the Arizona State upset, especially because I've been big on the Dillingham, hype train all season. I feel like I shout him and Fran Brown out like every other 3 weeks. So I got to tip my hat to those boys out of Arizona State doing their thing. A lot of the usual suspects stepping up for them. Tyson had another excellent game. I'm gonna go ahead and just pull up the box score just to make sure my facts are in order. But yeah, he did, break 100 yards receiving again this week. I think that's 5 or 6 weeks consecutively for him doing that. So continuing to shine and be that team's like driving force going forward on offense, along with Levitt, who I believe is like everything that people, try to make Drew Aller up to be as a prospect. I'm not going to, turn this into me bagging on Allard, but Sam Levitt does a lot of the things that I felt like as a prospect. I hear a lot of those analysts, touch on when they talk about big mobile quarterbacks who can do things on the fly. This Arizona State team has been up and down, this year, considering they got 2 losses kind of on the hop. But being able to knock off a top 10 team in the manner that they did is always a huge pick-me-up in the middle of the season like this. You could argue that this week was the turning point for a lot of programs this year. And moving forward into this week, you can say the same thing. Like Logan already alluded to, this game with Oklahoma is absolutely the biggest week of Ole Miss's season, coming up. So Arizona State was able to pick up a really, really pivotal dub. And I don't think a lot of people, had them knocking off Texas Tech, to be honest. Texas Tech was like the media's darling, coming into this week, them along with maybe 1 or 2 other teams. But They're also, on a really great trajectory. People talk a lot about their NIL spending and stuff when they bring them up, but let's not get too far away from the fact that these boys was able to put together a ball club that up until this point was undefeated and looked to be able to probably run the table with the rest of their schedule. This isn't a Texas Tech show, but I do have their schedule pulled up, and if they can take care of BYU, they can still be a one-loss team going into their conference championship against probably a favorable opponent. So Arizona State, in that same regard, being able to get a dub over a team of this of this caliber, you're hoping that Texas Tech can run the table for the rest of the year and make your resume look better when you're probably on the outside looking in. I kind of got Arizona State in that bubble group. There's a couple of other squads that I'm sure there'll be a segment later on in the show that we can touch on that, but there's like 2 or 3 teams that after this week, I've got them on like my first group out. So I'm sure, like I said, we'll touch on those things later, but big ups to Dillingham and Levitt and the boys over in Arizona taking care of business against Texas Tech for sure.
That game kind of, to me, like that upset, when I heard that, I wasn't really surprised, if that makes sense. Like upsets, you're obviously a little
I agree with you, though. I know what you mean.
So-and-so beat so-and-so, but Arizona State was the team that was built to make that happen. Great coaching, obviously, like you said, with Levitt leading the group.
I would say week 1, I think we would all probably consensus have Arizona State winning that game probably. So I see your point, Joe.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
And like you said, Texas Tech, I mean, you got Oklahoma State next, followed by Kansas State, the fake KSU. So, I mean, they definitely control their own destiny. I don't think anything is going anywhere with that. Speaking of top 10 shakeups, if I told y'all at the beginning of the season, maybe y'all would have believed me, actually. But if I would have told y'all 5 years ago, let's go back even a little more. Hey, we're in week 5, and Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech are in the top 10. They both had, now Tech, that game was, when I say ugly, not like a blowout, but Tech, there was some very sloppy play on both sides. Somehow Tech was the underdog in this, which still kind of blows my mind. But Georgia Tech, one thing I'll give them credit for is with those wins, like that win against Wake Forest, this one against Duke, these guys know how to win football games, and it's very scary for a Black Friday coming up for me personally.
I'm losing sleep about that game.
Yeah, no, those guys know how to win football games, man. They are
losing
legit.
sleep about that game this year. I'm not gonna lie to you. We're playing in their house, right?
That's at Mercedes.
No, it's Mercedes-Benz. I mean, so
that's right. That's right.
Basically, it's
but yeah,
a matter of exits from their house, but
right.
you know how it is in this area, as far as the population. But got Vanderbilt looking good too. Got the win over LSU, which we're going to talk about, the kind of the coaching carousel world that could be going on here soon. But those teams, I think they're both not just lucky. Those are both really good teams. Both have, and it's weird because they both have kind of the same quarterback to me, where they're in the perfect system for them, and their coach gets the best out of them. I don't know how transferable it is, but it doesn't matter how transferable it is. It matters how transferable it is. The wins on Saturdays, and clearly they got that figured out. So
I think it's the best system to have when you can't out talent somebody's roster. And I'm gonna let everybody else hop in on that, but I think that's the best route to take if you want to, establish a pipeline to success, and you're not going to be able to, stack your roster, guy for guy with the big dogs. Getting that that archetype of a quarterback really helps.
Buster Faulkner could be the best offensive coordinator in football. I'm so serious. The fact that they got him to extend and he's not going to, at least on paper, not look for his own job next year is Brent Key. And then, boy, shout out to y'all.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll jump in. Oh,
go ahead,
Chip. Go ahead.
Okay. Vandy is scary, man. That's a team that I am glad is not on our schedule this year. I mean, they just are one of those teams that figure it out every week. And I'll be honest, I watched just about every snap of that LSU Vandy game, and there was not one point in that game where I thought LSU was going to win. Not a single time. Now, when it comes to what you guys are touching on with, the talent they have at quarterback, creating wins for them, like Haynes King and Diego Pavia, and the kind of electricity they bring to a team like this. I'm more curious as how they're going to look next season after losing those two guys. You know, I don't know if, because really, truthfully, and this is just somebody looking from the outside in who doesn't watch a lot of Vanderbilt film, but like being a fan watching it, you can tell, especially with Georgia Tech too, that offense is completely surrounded based on how that quarterback performs. Like the run game, the passing game, Pavia's bouncing outside the pocket and creating plays for himself. I mean, it's actually nuts how much that offense is based on that quarterback. Now, obviously, when you have a talent like that, that's what you want. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
That's what a good coordinator does.
Right, exactly. And not to say they don't have weapons. I think I saw something during the game that Vanderbilt has like the 4th most efficient offensive line in the country. So that really helps when you have a talented quarterback like Diego Pavia. You know, I don't have either of these teams as being like a national championship winner by any means, but I do think in a playoff scenario, they could easily knock a team off without a struggle. And I think that Vanderbilt just exposed LSU just as much as we've been talking about week after week after week. You know, not to take anything away from LSU, but Vandy was clearly the better team, and everybody was talking about, oh my God, Vandy's favored in this game. This is the first time since like 1960 something that they were favored in a game like this, and they went and proved it why. And I'm not gonna lie, that crowd was jumping for that game. It was kind of crazy how like much of an impact that crowd had on that game as well. I didn't watch any of the Tech game at all, so I'm not going to really speak too much on that, but I am a big Brent Key fan. You know, I think that especially with it being his alma mater, you could tell he puts his heart into that team. And he's a different personality, you know, but I think it fits really well with their system. And I think Brent Key is like listed, which I know we're going to get into the coaching carousel in a few minutes, but I think he's like the 4th or 5th favorite to go to Florida, which I don't see a world where he leaves Georgia Tech personally, but we'll get to that eventually.
All right.
I do want to point out real quick, Logan, before you go, both these offenses are also in the top 25 in total offense in the country. So clearly something's sticking there. So
I believe it.
Continue, Logan. I'm sorry.
So I'm kind of sort of be the opposite of Trip here. So I was watching the Georgia Tech Duke game. What is his name? Oh God, I should have pulled it up sooner.
Menza?
Yes, their quarterback. Dude, he was dicing Georgia Tech.
Dude, he's
that
good.
First drive, yeah, he's solid. That first drive, dude, they marched downfield like without hesitation, no problem. Fumbled the ball at the 5-yard line. Tech picks it up, scoops and scores, 95-yard scoop and score, longest in history. And then the very next play, they go down. I think that's the one they settled for a field goal, and then they missed it. So, I mean, that game could have very easily been Duke's way to start off, and Georgia Tech comes with 2 huge deflating. I mean, you're talking about a 95-yard scoop and score and then a missed field goal to follow that. Like, that's very deflating if you're Duke. So that kind of takes a wind out of the sails, takes away any home field advantage that Duke thought they had. Joey. And, you know, that kind of changed everything. And at the end of the day, Haynes King, kind of like you're saying, him, Pavia, do feel like they're cut from the same cloth. They're the same type of quarterback. They're kind of like you're both were touching on, like, seem like they're in the perfect system for them. Seem like they got the perfect head coach. Seem like they got a coach who believes in them, who understands their strengths and their weaknesses and plays accordingly to it, game plans for that. And I think it just makes both these quarterbacks look even better than maybe they truly are. But that's what good coaches do, get the best out of guys. So I'm with you guys. Very shocked that these guys are top 10. I mean, we got college game day in Nashville this weekend, boys. Mizzou versus Vandy. And it has playoff implications. So, I mean, it really could be a good one. So shout out to Vandy. Shout out to Georgia Tech. You know, they got those 2 squads rolling. Those 2 programs for, 3 years now have been on the up and up, and every year seem to improve. So shout out to both those teams who – maybe in the past were fighting for bowl games, and now they're fighting for a playoff spot. So it's fun to see that.
I got one more thing I wanted to point out that I forgot to bring up in my spill. So Vanderbilt has as many wins against ranked opponents as the following teams do combined: Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Iowa, Nebraska, Washington, Purdue, and Michigan State. Has more ranked wins than all of them put together. That's a great. And if you look at the rest of their schedule, I think they play 3 more ranked teams. They still got to play Tennessee. They got to play Missouri. And I can't remember what the other one is. Texas.
Yeah.
And so that's given if Texas is still ranked at that point. Who knows at this point? But they could very well play a very large majority of their schedule against ranked opponents.
Big Ten about to have to buy Kentucky out so they can start making their quotas.
There you go. Speaking of, just real brief, Trip mentioned this earlier. Not intentionally, and kind of for that reason you just brought up, Trip, we haven't really talked much about Ohio State this year. Because really since Texas, I think it's fair to say they haven't really played in a big game, if you will. But my God, they are good. I know obviously based on rankings, they play inferior opponents, but man, they do nothing wrong. They have no holes. They have probably arguably the best defensive mind. When I say arguably, I mean top 3, top 5-ish. And Matt Patricia, I mean, a psychotic defensive guy. You got probably the 2 best players in the country, and Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, and Julian Saint is playing out of his mind too. So as much as it makes me want to vomit, I do need to give them their due because we simply have not spent enough time on them. But hopefully, I mean, their schedule doesn't really is any indication. But Michigan is probably going to be about the next time we really get into them unless something massive happens. But I did want to give them a shout out real quick.
I got one question for everybody, just real quick. Don't want to spend too much time on it. Would you rather be a fan, if you're the fan of these teams, would you rather be in a situation like Ohio State or like a Georgia or Alabama? Like Georgia and Alabama have a loss, but they've been tested multiple times. Ohio State has not been tested. Personally, I would rather be tested. I don't want to get in the playoffs and our first real test be playoffs because you don't know how you're going to respond and you don't have the experience. So it just makes me wonder, if you guys are theoretically an Ohio State fan in this, are you not a little nervous? Are you not I would love some kind of test during this season? Because they don't have one. They do not have one on their schedule. So
I think as good as they look,
I don't know. It kind of worries me.
I may not be worried in that specific situation, but as a fan, it's more exciting for me to get up for big games because of the weight that they hold and the implications that it can have ranking wise. So I enjoy that part, but Ohio State might be the anomaly in that situation. I ain't gonna lie to you. If I get to watch Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith every Saturday, sign me up.
I saw a Big Ten fan on Twitter crying because the SEC gets yet another college game day this coming week. And I saw a response to it. It was like, hey, your conference sucks. You guys barely ever have ranked matchups. What do you want college game day to go to Indiana and UCLA this weekend? Like, come on, bro. Other than that, to touch on what Logan's asking, I agree in some aspect. Obviously you want to be tested to see what your true identity really is. But on the other side of that, think about how many reps their young guys are getting in these games when they're blowing people out of the water and maybe finding some diamonds in the rough that they wouldn't have seen if they were in those testy games. You know what I mean? So I think you still find a lot of good things about your team in these games that they're playing, even though they're not that quality. There's a good chance that by the end of this season, depending on how things shake out, if Texas is not ranked by the end of the season, which I think they should be, depending on how the rest of their season plays out, every team they play this year might not end up in the top 25 by the end of the season. So they could go a whole slate of, when it's all said and done, never even played a ranked opponent. It doesn't count when you played them that week and they were ranked. It depends how they were ranked at the end of the season. So that's going to be interesting to see.
I'll touch real quick, too, before we let Graham touch on that. You're talking about game day and they're complaining about SEC, but let's be honest. This is the second option for game day this week. If it wasn't for the fact of game day already going to Oklahoma, it would 100% be in Oklahoma for Ole Miss. That's another top 10 SEC matchup this week. So nothing, not to discredit Vandy or Missouri, but I think the writing's on the wall. If they hadn't already been to Norman, Oklahoma, that's where they'd be this week. So it's no real leg to stand on there. It's another top 10 SEC matchup this week. Oh, no, can't believe it. They're going to an SEC school,
I guess I'll watch it.
Yeah, I guess. Twist my arm.
Yeah. No, man. To answer Logan's question, I do appreciate the fact that, especially with our team, being as young as they are, we were able to kind of like rip the band-aid off early, as far as like seeing how young guys are going to look when they get put in positions that the veterans who we send off to the league, were in formerly. We were able to get, a lot of those questions answered quickly. Even a couple of guys, like I'll just use one as like a primary example, Ellis Robinson. He'll continue to get shat on by fans specifically for the rest of the year, but that kid has improved every game since that Tennessee matchup, and I stand by that. There are going to be moments in every game where if you want to pull out a microscope, you can say, look here, but I think there's a ton of bright spots that come from to a part of what Logan's question, involved as far as like having this type of a schedule. There's benefits in that. But to Joey's point, with Ohio State being an anomaly, and why I would want to be that anomaly in this instance, why I think I would prefer it. In conference play this year, I don't got the stats for like all the games, out of non-con games, Logan. But in conference play this year, Ohio State is 4-0, of course. They've scored 255 points and allowed 41. I think just if there was anyone else you was asking about besides Ohio State, they probably wouldn't get the nod from me. But I think I'm with Joey, or I'm gonna roll with Joey. I might prefer to be the Buckeyes just in this instance, because that's the type of defenses that Georgia fans are continually wondering, like, when are we gonna get back to that? But man, that's to conquer a feat like that in this day and age with NIL and all that, weak conference or not, that defense is legit, man.
I think it's a confidence booster to know anytime you step on the field, no matter who you play in the sport, you've got the two best players on the field. That's a pretty good feeling. But moving on real quick. Obviously, big news that no one saw coming. Sunbelt Billy Napier was exiled from Florida this weekend after beating Mississippi State, a team, Mississippi State, that kind of absolutely blew it. They're in field goal. Granted, it's a long field goal for a kicker, but with the clock on their side and field position on their side, throws a pick to seal the game, which was incredible. What is it? Teams are Mississippi State has gotten 4 coaches fired after they've gotten beat. After Mississippi State's gotten beat, I thought that was hilarious. But we all knew with Billy, the writing was on the wall. I think it's safe to say that USF loss at the beginning of the season was pretty much, that was his kiss of death. Signed, sealed, delivered after that one, just a matter of when. And going into the bye probably was the most favorable time to do it, and kind of makes me scared to play them as a Georgia fan coming out of that, because God, these teams, man, it's so easy to get a team that a situation like where it's Napier, get him out of there for that team to come out fired up. So really, obviously hope Georgia stumps a mud hole in him, but gonna be interesting to see. But Billy Napier hasn't had a winning season at all. Really, Florida outperforming their expectations is the only reason he got a job this year. And I think that Central Florida game or South Florida game was really the one. Been a lot of speculation about who could take that job. Give or take, arguably probably the best job open, unless somehow Brian Kelly were to get fired. Another good one that could open is Auburn. Jay Norvell got fired from Colorado State too. So much going on about the coaching carousel, who could be gone. So I want you guys to kind of tell me who you think is going to be the guy to take Florida. I think everybody knows the consensus guy, but if you think Lane Kiffin's the main name, obviously. I think Lane Kiffin and James Franklin, kind of the two most popular ones. But Tripp, I want you to lead us off, because I know we hung out this weekend, watched some games together, and you had something that you wanted to kind of say in this segment. So regarding to one of the names I said. So please go ahead before we continue any further.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who's watched any of this show at all, and especially these three guys here, know that I'm like the Joker to the Batman to James Franklin. Been on his ass since last year. Really, I've been on his ass for his whole career, but I owe that man an apology. I'm not even going to lie. After watching him talk on College Game Day, it really did change a lot of the ways that I think about him. Obviously, stats are stats. He would crumble in big games. There's no going around that. But the way that he handled this situation and the way he spoke on that panel, I almost feel guilty for talking shit about the guy. Now, as someone who's here to talk about sports, like I said, a stat is a stat. But if I am a Florida Gator fan and Lane Kiffin is not available, that's your guy. And I know that based on the statistics of against top 25 teams, top 10 teams, whatever you want to pull about James Franklin, that probably scares a Florida fan because they need a home run guy. But I think if you gave James Franklin even the roster that Florida has right now, you're moving a step in the right direction. Now, could Lane Kiffin be the next coach for the Florida Gators? Obviously, nothing's impossible. Obviously, I think Florida has the money to do it. The boosters are going to be well behind that as far as paying for that to happen and buying him out, whatever the case may be. But from what I'm seeing, Marcus Freeman was their go-to guy. That's who they wanted it to be. And Marcus Freeman shut that shit down quick. He said, no, I'm not going anywhere. And he said that publicly. He also just got extended after they went to the Natty last year for an extra, I think, 4 years, if I'm not mistaken.
There's no way anybody thought that was a real possibility. Like a sane person. There's no way.
Why would that? I'm not even going to get into that. That's just a whole nother spill for another day. But, obviously, if Lane Kiffin is available and that is an option for Florida, then that's your best option on the table. I don't even think it's a conversation. But I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be James Franklin as the next head coach of Florida, personally. Now, as a Georgia fan, I do not want to see Lane Kiffin strap up for Florida. I don't. And that's just me being honest.
Or James Franklin.
I mean, if I had to pick between the two, I'd rather Kirby versus James Franklin than Kirby versus Lane Kiffin.
Fair enough.
Especially you give Lane Kiffin those resources. I mean, Lane Kiffin right now pretty much lives out of the portal. I think they were like 16th in recruiting this past year, 17th the year before. They usually float around that 15 to 20 mark. Florida was a top 10 recruiting class this past year, and they're going to continue to grow from that. So with his offensive mindset, getting into a system like that with those kind of recruits on top of what he's already capable of doing in the transfer portal, that's scary news. Now, the big question mark is that actually what Lane Kiffin wants? Nobody knows because he won't talk about it, which I think is probably the smartest thing to do, honestly. But a lot of speculation around from what I'm seeing in Florida, chats and stuff on social media is that's the reason why they think it is going to be Lane, because he won't come out and say, no, that's not what I want. Like, it's like he's like playing the game or whatever. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think, who knows? I've seen Drink's name getting thrown around. I don't think that's your home run guy personally. Mike Norvell might not have a job at the end of this season. Who knows? I think Hugh Freeze might be on the market this season. You never know what's going to happen. So I don't know. It's going to be crazy, but I definitely think it's going to be James Franklin personally.
Real quick, I want to throw my 2 cents in and get out of the way. My question is, obviously, Lane Kiffin and James Franklin are kind of the two guys. I think it will end up being James Franklin, because my question is for Lane Kiffin, why does it make sense for him to leave? Right. Obviously you've got the access to arguably the best high school producing state, especially with IMG down there and American Heritage, schools like that, the private schools. But this Florida administration is so wishy-washy and has been for so long, an incredibly toxic fan base, as we all well know. But okay, these are the people who fired Urban Meyer after he took them to 2 championships. Of course, they went 8-5 and 7-6, not good. They fired him. Jim McElwain was there for 3 years. Guy had a 10-4 season, a 9-4 season. Went 3-4. He was 3-4, got fired. Dan Mullen had 2 10-win seasons his first 2 years. 2020 gets to the SEC championship and is fired the next season. Why do you want to put yourself in that kind of situation if you're Lane Kiffin? And with the rope in college football, I think is another important part to hit on, being so the leash in college football being so short about your window to be good because of every factor that's hit the sport. you're at a place where you can kind of you're the man, 9-10 games, you're staying there forever, wins that is. And they've got your back. Your family loves it. Obviously, in that documentary, if you guys saw it, he didn't go to Auburn because his daughter made a slideshow about why she wanted to stay in Oxford, and it brought him to tears, and he stayed there. Why do you want to expose yourself to that if you're Lane Kiffin? I've just read you, like, the leash of Florida is this clearly because they've had, I'll put it this way, since 2000, we'll just go back 2000, they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different coaches. I don't think Georgia's had 5 coaches since 1980. Not to say Georgia, that just shows how excellent standard excellence in Georgia is, but that shows the instability in this Florida program that if you're Lane Kiffin, you got it made like you do. I don't know why you leave for that. Now, if you are obviously a free agent like James Franklin, if you're a Missouri, I guess you can kind of for the same thing, but Missouri is not Ole Miss. I think there are some names you can definitely make sense to kind of take that step up. Lane Kiffin, it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it, is why throw yourself into that instability where it's obviously the sport is coaching profession is what have you done for me lately? But these guys really don't care about what you've done. Arguably the best coach I've ever had, they canned 2 seasons after he won him a national championship. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to be a part of that. You're Lane Kiffin.
I'm going to throw one more thing out there. It's a report that I read actually this morning. I don't know how true it is, but there was a lot of people saying it was. Apparently, at the end of last season, Florida's AD went to Billy and said, like, was putting a lot of pressure on him to hire an offensive coordinator and relieve himself of the play calling. And he said that he wasn't going to do that. So they said, okay, well, you go 9-3 or you're done. And that's what led to this decision. I don't know how accurate that is. But to touch on your point really quick, Joey, and then I'll pass it on. I think, like I said earlier when we were talking about this earlier in the season, this AD's head is on the line for this next hire. So if this is not a home run pick, you're cooked if you guys end up firing another guy within a few seasons. So I think it has to be a guy like Lane Kiffin. So whatever they're willing to pay, they're probably going to make that happen. But I do think it does end up being James Franklin.
You don't think the basketball chip saves him?
Do what?
You don't think the basketball championship they just won saves him?
What the fuck does that got to do with football?
Well, I mean, it means he's hiring them, right? I mean, he's got it. I'm talking about the AD. Like,
yeah, but just like you just said, how many they fired Urban Meyer? I think Dan Mullen was how many seasons?
They fired him in his 4th season. Basically, these guys have a shelf life of 4 years.
Right, and then you go and take a risk on a young guy who is one of the hottest names in the market for young coaches for next up for a big gig. Florida is not a program that needs to take risks on anybody as it is, being a blue blood program. This is your last chance, I think, as an AD. I think the basketball championship does help, but I can assure you that a lot of these football fans of the Florida Gators, they obviously care about Florida basketball, but they want to have an established head coach for this football team, no matter what that basketball team does.
Fair enough.
And so do the boosters.
All right, I'll jump in.
I know you feel really passionate about this one. Can't wait to hear this.
Oh, I'm not even going to entertain the nonsense. I will touch on the Florida idea, though. Like you're talking about all these coaches getting fired, whatnot. How crazy is it all those coaches have such short shelf life? However, Billy Napier can go out here and what was he, 21 and 23, 21 and 22, whatever it was. Like, at all the guys you fired quick and early, you don't fire this guy? Like, what are we doing? With that being said, one name that I'm surprised is not getting touched on in college football world for coaching is Jimbo. Jimbo has openly said he wants to go back and he said he wants to come back and coach. If you're a team like Florida who has resources, does that not kind of – I mean, I know he was at Florida State, rivalry, all that. But, like, if I'm Florida, Jimbo's won a natty. Jimbo proves he can get talent. Jimbo knows how to win. Or if I'm Penn State even, Jimbo can win the big game. He's won the big game. He's been in a Power 4 conference and had success. Like, Jimbo said, I think it was like earlier this season, he wants to get back into coaching. So that's just a name that I feel like he tried to throw his name in the hat or whatever, and people were just like, man, Lane Kiffin, because that's who we got to name every time a coaching job's available. So it's just like, I don't know. I think Jimbo, I'm surprised that name's not getting mentioned. James Franklin, feels like is the guy for Florida for sure, just because I'm not entertaining the Kiffin shit anymore. It's been 5 straight years that he's been at Ole Miss. 5 straight years in the offseason. It's Kiffin.
But
I'll believe it when I see
question,
it. When I see it, I'll cry. I'll leave it at that.
My question is to push back on that a little bit. While I said, hey, here's probably why you shouldn't, you don't think there's any rationale as to why he would go to Florida?
If you didn't go to LSU, why are you going to Florida?
Okay, but just as example as it is, do you think there's no reason why it would make sense? I see why.
Why not Kirby? Why not Kirby? Why not DeBoer? Why not freaking any other? Why Ryan Day? That's what I don't get. Why is it Kiffin? It's always Kiffin. It's never any other big name coach. It's Kiffin every time. It's so annoying, bro. I'm so tired of hearing that shit.
I'm gonna be honest when I say this, and I'm not trying to be funny. Those other coaches you just named, that would be a downgrade for them. This would be an upgrade for Lane Kiffin.
How? What has Florida done in the last 10 years?
I mean, you've got a team.
Hey, what have they done in the last 10 years that we haven't, other than lose an SEC championship? We haven't done that.
They've been to an SEC championship.
I just said, other than lose an SEC championship, we haven't done that. Name something else.
The recruiting they can bring in, the weapons they have. I mean, you have to think Ole Miss has lived out of the portal, and it's been successful. I'm not taking anything away from Ole Miss. I think Lane Kiffin has been very successful at Ole Miss, and I agree with Joey when it comes to his job security at Ole Miss. He could win 10 games a year, and he'll retire there at the end of his career. But to say that going to Florida is not an upgrade, I think is just crazy. That's a true blue blood program, and Ole Miss just simply is not. And that's just from a sport perspective. I'm not saying like he doesn't have it better at Ole Miss than Florida has it right now, because that's a lie. But for what he could go and do for that program, could make a legacy for him that's unmatched at Ole Miss, if that makes sense.
But my point to this, if you're gonna leave Ole Miss to a place that's not in as good of a spot, Florida's way down here compared to us right now. LSU was like neck and neck with us. If you're going to leave at Ole Miss, why not go to LSU? If I'm a coach, I'm going to LSU over Florida every day of the week.
That, and I agree that makes it that does make it interesting. But there's no doubt that Lane Kiffin, I don't know if Ole Miss is going to be the place where you go. It really, I guess, what do you want if you're Lane Kiffin? Do you want to win the championship, or do you want to have the kind of job security you have now? Because Ole Miss is not the state of Mississippi does not have the same athletes as the state of Florida. It's an enormous gap there. And you've got, I mean, again, it's the tradition there that you're walking into, the heritage of 3 championships in the past 30 years. That's something that people still hold dearly. And I think when you do walk into that, you realize, hey, I could do this. So I guess it really depends on what he wants. I kind of go back to what I said earlier. I don't know if Florida's stability, if I'm Lane Kiffin, makes me want to go there. But
dude, I would love to.
The competitive guy in him, you never know.
In the last 10 years, I would love to know who has the better record, Ole Miss or Florida.
Oh, it's not even close to Ole Miss.
I was saying, I'm willing to bet it's us. Like I don't know. If you don't leave LSU for Ole Miss, I don't know why you leave Florida for Ole Miss. That's what I'm going to stand on. I think LSU is a much better opportunity, and I think LSU, the way they were left behind Ogeron before they got Brian Kelly, was a much better job to jump into. And LSU, I think, aren't proven to, hey, you get 5 years here and then you're canned. LSU doesn't really do that.
LSU fired Coach O a year after he won a
natty. A year after a chip.
Yeah, but come on, though.
No, they were horrible.
That could have been what turned him away from it, though. We don't know these things. That's the thing. I think the biggest point.
I'm not buying it.
That's fair, and I understand. If somebody was saying Kirby was leaving, I'd tell them they were crazy. But maybe, who knows? It's all going to come down to like what Joey said. Does Lane Kiffin want to coach his whole career at Ole Miss and live with the best job security in the country and have fun playing football? Sure, maybe. Or does he want to try to go create a legacy somewhere? I don't see that, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't see that legacy happening where he's at. If he goes to Florida and completely flips that program where it should be with that talent roster that they have, or the talent they have on that roster, I just think that creates something completely different. It just depends on what kind of thing he wants. But Graham, you haven't said a word.
What creates more of a legacy, though? Because
championships.
To me, exactly. So if you win a championship at Ole Miss, who is has no idea what the fuck that tastes like, a real championship, because 1960 and 70 doesn't count. You have a team who literally doesn't know what a championship tastes like, and you win it there. You are literally going to, as a guy like Kiffin, who's already done so much, he's going to solidify himself as a top guy all time. You go do that shit at Florida, you're not solidifying your guys a top guy all time. I mean, like, Florida, yeah, you're going to like solidify yourself as a legend, but it's like, let's be honest. If you do some shit at Ole Miss versus Florida, which one's more impressive?
Florida right now, though, has the talent to win a national championship. Just if you look at like per like 24/7, say what?
We don't.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
We didn't last year or the year before.
I mean, you don't make the
but Florida didn't either. What are we talking about, bro? Listen to what you're saying.
Bro, look at the recruiting ranks. I'm just saying that
fuck
right there.
Recruiting. Look at the record.
No.
Look at the talent.
No.
Recruiting does not mean everything you're putting
I'm talking about. They have more raw talent on their team than Ole Miss does.
But what?
So if he's getting that out of what he's getting at Ole Miss, look at guys that are more talented. What could he get out of them? Is more so what I'm getting to.
Bro, you can't look at a roster and say this roster is good. What the fuck is their record? What do they do? What did they accomplish? What did they win? Like coaching plays a part, yes.
But I'm saying if you just look at raw talent by itself, just speaking to that fact.
Last year's Ole Miss team is better than any team Florida's seen in 5 to 10 years. I will die on that hill.
We're talking about two different points, and we're kind of getting off. Graham, go ahead, if you're still alive.
I'm just going to say this once and for all. I'll believe it when I see it. If Kiffin leaves Ole Miss, will I be sad as fuck? Absolutely, because we're not getting – no one is good unless we go get James Franklin or something right now. Will be, I guess, a pretty good replacement. But I am so sick of every single half-ass good job that comes open. It's Kiffin. Like, that shit's so played out.
Graham, we've been babbling. Please go ahead.
No, what we got after this one? I feel like we done made a whole dissertation on
after this, we're picking the games and that's it.
With the coaches. I'll come in hot on the pick 'em. I'll step up the bat on the pick 'em. We can roll out.
At least tell us who you think is going to be the next Florida head coach. I want to hear
that. I mean,
and I know you love drink. You love drink.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big drink fan. I actually said a few years ago in a Georgia chat that I'm in with y'all boys. You know, like if Kirby, God forbid, had to. At that time, I said this. I said if Kirby couldn't be our coach, I would prefer us to hire someone like Drink, who's on the up and up. Because I really do, you know, I'm a big fan of anyone who can do more with less. I think it benefits you throughout your tenure, regardless of what stage of coaching, that you're in. Being a good man manager, I know that's a soccer term, but being able to actually establish real bonds and relationship with guys, it doesn't just benefit you between the lines within that season or while a guy's on your roster. That's how you go on to build player coaches and guys who go on to become coaches on your staff because of how, you know, intuitive of a relationship you have with them beyond what they did on Saturdays. You know, being able to give them, you know, those brains that allow them to think in a way that helps them become leaders. I think James Franklin is excellent at all those things. However, when it comes to getting wins and getting things done, he hasn't shown me enough in that regard. So for him to be the ideal fit for Florida, I feel like they would have to have, like, to a certain capacity, if this makes sense, like a general manager, like somebody who's always making sure that the talent is up to par, someone who's always making sure that he has the right coordinators to call the right plays in the big moments, because he showed us consistently that he could not do that. Maybe not poor clock management, but mismanagement of play calls and defensive identities throughout different parts of a season and within a big game. He's shown us way too many times that he's not, strong enough in those areas for me to be confident to say that he's ideal. I'm definitely not going to open up or hit on any of those open wounds that we were, kind of, touching on as far as like who's who in the SEC. But I will say that at Florida, it does command a very particular type of presence. Urban Meyer is like the right presence, but in the dark version. Like, we all know what comes with him. We all know what came with his teams and all the baggage that comes with him. But he has it. I don't know exactly how to elaborate beyond that point, like what that box, is that has to be checked to be that guy.
I'll tell you what that box is. You give him a team and a field. Good luck beating them.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And Logan brought up that not Dabo, god dang.
Jimbo.
Brought up A&M's old coach.
Jimbo.
Yeah, Jimbo. But I think that A&M stint did him in. If he had just maybe been a coordinator for one or two different teams, and maybe not been as successful, but didn't have a stint like A&M where he showed us consistently that even when they threw a bag at him as far as like what he could spend on a roster, he couldn't get it done over there either. So that acquisition really wouldn't do it for me either. Ideally, I think in a vacuum, you would go. Me personally, you go for someone like Drake. I like that you guys brought it up earlier because I think that Drake immediately answers the floor question. The issue is what Joey brought up. You can't keep firing guys like that. Winning 10 games in any conference is not a fireable offense. I don't care what way you look at it. You
100%.
have to systematically go back to the drawing board and say, what are we doing?
Ohio State fans.
Because it's not anything that you need to, change wholesale when you're winning 10, 11 games a year. I would even argue 9, honestly. Unless you're a top 5 program consistently, 9 wins a year should be enough for you to say, we've got the right stuff in the kitchen. What are we cooking? You see what I'm saying? We got the right stuff in the fridge. What are we cooking? So I'm going for somebody like Drink, who I think in his own right does have, a few additional questions he needs to answer on the back end of this Missouri tenure. But how he addresses the end of this season, I think is going to be a huge indicator of like what's to come for him. Because if he maxes out with Missouri this year, like from a coaching standpoint, but them boys don't go nowhere, he's kind of looking from the outside in, like what more do I have left to accomplish with this team? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we got to roll.
I think Drink would be definitely a good asset. But we're going to keep, especially when the coaching carousel happens after the season ends, we're going to have a long talk about this. Funny enough, I don't know. Have you guys ever seen any football game where the crowd chants to fire the offensive coordinator? Because I saw that for the first time.
Steelers.
Well, I more so meant college. But when I was at a South Carolina game, Mike Schuler, offensive coordinator, was calling an absolute stinker. I mean, this was not a fireable offense, but like a prison offense. It was so bad. It was awful. And the crowd was chanting, "Fire Shula." Never seen anything like that. But not to interrupt too much there. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the games this week. We got a few to pick from, starting off at noon slate like we always do. First, we got Syracuse at Georgia Tech. Graham, your guy. I think everybody was waiting for Graham to insert the Fran Brown button in the and the Florida hirings.
You already knew it was going to make his appearance at some point. But our boy is still coaching without Angeli. He lost his quarterback a few weeks ago. We got to kind of put an asterisk next to Syracuse for the rest of the season. He's a former dog. We're going to always wish him the best, but Tech's definitely going to take care of business this week. Any win below 14 points or more, I think, needs to be considered a disappointment for this team. They need to roll heavily from this point forward, through the rest of the season, so that way they can finish strong and leave no doubt in the committee's mind to keep them in the playoffs, whether they lose to Georgia or not. And this is not me saying this is not my prediction. I already said I'm losing sleep about that Georgia Tech matchup. But Tech does need to really beat the teams that they should beat convincingly from here on out, because we know how this committee gets with teams that are deserving down the stretch.
I'm gonna go, like you said, that Angeli is such a game shifter for Cuse. And honestly, it's probably been a reason that I don't want to dive any deeper about this, but kind of the Fran Brown stock is down right now, and I think that quarterback injury really does play a factor into that. I expect Tech to run away with it. With Angeli, honestly, might lean towards an upset. But Tech right now, I think it's just too good. Again, they've shown they know how to win. Syracuse is down. Give me actually, I don't want to say that out loud. But Georgia Tech is going to win this game.
I agree. I won't spend much time on this. Tech, for obvious reasons. Haynes King's going to ball out at home, I think. So I'm going to roll with Tech.
Yeah, I don't think Tech covers this spread by any means. I think this is actually going to be a better game than people anticipate. I think, like Joey said, if Angeli was not hurt, I might be taking Syracuse to be upsetting Georgia Tech possibly this week. I am going to take Tech. I mean, like we talked about before, they find a way to win games. I mean, last week proved that for sure. So I think they're going to handle them with ease, but I don't think they're going to cover 17.5. I can see them winning by maybe 10 possibly, but yeah, win with
All
ease.
right, so we're all rolling the Jackets there. Next, a game we alluded to earlier, Ole Miss at number 8 Ole Miss at 13 Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a 4.5-point favorite right now. I watched pretty much every snap of both teams' games last weekend. Oklahoma, that offense, it looks so disjointed right now. Prior to the South Carolina game, I'm sure that somewhat increased it, but I think they were averaging like 2 yards per carry against Power 5 teams. So this offense really has got some figuring out to do. Napier really hasn't been himself since he's been back. I'm not shaming the guy, but he just simply last week game really wasn't impressive. They really blew South Carolina on the ground. Is kind of what did that in. Napier made the throws he needed to, but not that game breaker that we saw against Auburn earlier in the year. Obviously, that defense is unreal, no matter who they're going to be on the field with. So I definitely don't expect to be a high-scoring affair. I think Georgia, where they really won over, was they were able to attack Ole Miss in space really well. I don't think Oklahoma can do the same. I'm going to take the Rebels in this one.
Yeah, same here, man. I'm rolling with the Rebels. I trust this Ole Miss offense more than I trust Oklahoma's defense's ability. Not more than I trust their defense in general, but I trust Ole Miss's offense more than I trust Oklahoma's defense to pull them out of the hole that I think this Oklahoma offense is going to put them in, to the point that Joey brought up earlier. There's no knock on Napier personally, but something that's kind of just resonated with me since he came back prematurely, and it's that I would have rolled with Hawkins for that Texas game, and if I needed to sub Napier in, I might have, but I think they should have just let him rest his hand a little bit longer, because you're right, Joey. Things have not looked the same with him and with them since he's come back. Give me the Rebels. Logan and them boys are going to have a bounce back week and continue to push towards trying to make these playoffs.
Logan, we'll let you go last on this one.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm also taking Ole Miss in this one. I don't think this team loses 2 in a row by any means. All the same points that y'all hit on. I do think Oklahoma's defense might have a little bit better success than Georgia did this past week. But if I'm a betting man, I am slamming the over on 54.5. I do think that this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think we should start seeing some better plays out of Napier this week. I think he's going to progressively get better as the season goes on with that injury he's coming back from. But I think that Trinidad Chambliss is about to give them hell. So, especially after what I saw this last week, that kid's insane. So, yeah, give me Ole Miss.
I will say this. I don't know if I want to slam the over off of what you said, solely because, I mean, Oklahoma's only put up 32 points since Napier came back in the last 2 weeks. So, like, they haven't particularly looked great, which scares me, but also makes me feel good, because it's like, okay, Natier's still trying to figure it out, but it also scares you because it's like, I don't want them to figure it out against us on a game that's really going to, get them pumped up and ready for it. Especially, like, I know Texas is a big game, but, it's first week back versus now he's got a couple reps under him and stuff like that. Oklahoma's defense does scare me. Kind of think it was you, Graham, that said that you think they're going to get more stops than Georgia's defense, or maybe it was you, Trip, when y'all two said it. But I agree with that. I think Oklahoma's defense is more likely to get a couple stops, or more than a couple, because y'all got a couple. But I think Oklahoma's defense is definitely scary. The thought of Napier maybe being able to put it together is scary. Being at Oklahoma is scary, but on the other hand, 12 o'clock kickoff, so hopefully it's not too rowdy at that time. I was thinking about it when I saw it as a 12 o'clock kickoff. This might be only our second 12 o'clock kickoff of the year. I feel like we've been in the 3:30 slot a lot this year with the night game or two. But I am going Ole Miss here. I think we should be able to take care of business here. Hoping our defense can rattle Mateer a little bit more than we were able to Stockton, especially with the injury, make him think twice, things of that nature. But I think we should be able to bounce back here and hopefully get a big win and get the train back on the track.
All right, so we're all rolling the Rebels there. This wasn't a game that I want anybody to try and pick or anything, but simply for the sake of conversation. Arkansas, 2.5-point favorite against Auburn. If Auburn drops this game, does that sign Hugh Freeze's death warrant?
He probably gets fired after the game if that happens.
Hugh Freeze has started every season at Auburn 0-4 in SEC play, by the way. So this if this goes 0-5, especially after him begging for his AD to plead for him publicly, yeah, he's toast.
Yeah, I think so too.
Hey, I think that South Florida game could be good also. I just want to throw that out there. South Florida and Memphis. I know Memphis just got their first loss, but those are two teams that's kind of like, mid-20s seems like they're reasonably ranked up in there. I think that could be a decent game to watch. I know there's going to be a ton of other games to watch at 12, but that game just kind of stuck out to me.
Well, 3:30 slate is where we see our game day selection. Missouri at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a 2.5-point favorite. Graham, I expect your boy Drink to God, this ticket's like almost over $250. Good God.
That's game day, baby.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's a good point. I am taking Tigers to pull it off. I think I want to see how Vanderbilt, after a big win against LSU, I really want to see how they bounce back after that. If they can handle that kind of thing, because Bama, they beat Bama last year, and didn't really sustain the success. So I want to know if they can do it this year. I think Damian Wilson is going to be the best player on the field in this game. Edge rusher for Missouri, so I expect him to make a big impact, really limit Pavia. Give me Mizzou.
Trip, who you got?
I'm taking Vandy, bro. I'm not going to lie. And a lot of that's because of the way Missouri played last week. Not to take anything away from them, but the iron's hot, man. And I think that bringing game day there is just going to light even more of a fire underneath them. So I think you can go ahead and check the box for Diego Pavia over passing yards, over rushing yards, over on touchdowns. He's about to have a day.
Oh, man.
I'm being hypothetical. I'm not saying go bet that by any means, but I do think Vanderbilt's going to continue to be successful, especially in a game like this with the hype around it. I feel like they thrive in moments like this.
I'm going to agree with Trip on this one. I'm going Vanderbilt. It being the first time they've had game day, I think it was since it was like 2008, which I'm assuming is James Franklin era. So first time they've had
he's a little
day.
bit later than that.
I want to say it was 2008, but neither here nor there. First time they've had it in a long time. I think, kind of like Trip saying, that's going to get them boys riled up. Coming off a big win, it is interesting to always see how teams respond after a big win. Sometimes, you get too high on your horse, but I do think Vanderbilt's over the last 2 seasons been, kind of, I don't want to say they're veterans in this moment, but they kind of are, they've been here before. So they've had big wins. So I think Vandy keeps rolling, and to me, it just seems Vanderbilt's look better overall than Missouri. Not to say Missouri's looked bad, but for whatever reason, I just kind of believe in Vanderbilt more. So I'm going to take the Commodores.
Yeah, this one is definitely, in my opinion, this is the hardest game to pick for the week. And the only reason why I'm going to be the guy who I believe makes it 3 games in a row that we go like consensus, all 4 picking the same picks. The only reason why I'm rolling with Vandy is I'm starting to feel like this year has a theme, and that theme is the want it more. I felt like Bama wanted to win more than Georgia, and that's why they beat us. I felt like we wanted to beat Tennessee more than Tennessee wanted to win. It doesn't matter whether you're at home or on the road. I feel like this season is the quintessential want it more season, who needs it more season. And to the point that you guys all made regarding game day being there for the first time in a long time, being at home, this game means the world to Vandy. And it's not to say that I think they're going to treat it like their Super Bowl, because Clarkley is way too good of a coach to do that. I definitely know he coaches them boys to treat every week, as they should. Worry about going 1-0 this week and that's it. But I'm gonna roll with the Commodores as well, just because of how massive this game and potentially this win could be for the program at home with the lights and the stars out. So,
All right, so I'm the odd man out. That's okay. Well, we'll see how it rolls next week.
I feel like this might be one of them games that propels Drink to leave, man. It's like, dang, what more can I accomplish here, dude? I'm freaking losing to Vandy on the road. Granted, this is a good Vandy team, but
yeah. Well, we'll see. Last game we're going to do is number 3 A&M at 20 LSU. A&M night game at Death Valley, 2.5-point favorite. I mean, they're the only undefeated team in the SEC right now. Not conference play, obviously, but only team without a blemish. I think LSU is a team that, in that environment, is going to get them off track. LSU still got a ton of talent, while their coach sometimes is an egomaniac, incompetent sometimes. He's still, a good coach when you put him on that sideline and, put him in the heat of battle. LSU, I think, is going to give A&M their first loss. And if they don't, I don't want to hear anything about LSU being ranked, because there's no reason right now they should even be ranked, in my opinion, because they've beaten nobody. But, yeah, I got them pulling this one out.
I'm right there with you.
They needed more. Yep. My bad, Trip. I mean to cut you off, but they needed more. I got the Tigers for the upset, man.
Yeah, I mean, Graham's whole point on Vanderbilt is the whole reason why I'm taking LSU here is who needs it more. And if Brian Kelly wants to keep his name out of the coaching carousel, they definitely need to win this game. I do think this Texas A&M team is a very good team. We saw a lot of flaws last week against Arkansas, of all teams that gave them hell. Garrett Nussmeier is well overdue for a Heisman-type game that we thought we were going to see out of him all season. And like we talked about every time we pick games, going into Death Valley is already hard enough as it is, but doing it at night, good luck. I definitely think that this is going to shake things up for A&M.
I'm going to be kind of like what Graham was saying on his last pick. I think this might be the hardest game to pick, because I initially see LSU and A&M, and I'm like, give me A&M. LSU, just too many question marks on the offense. Kind of like Tripp saying, Nussmeier's not look like what he looked like last year. And with that being said, also like Tripp said, he's due. He's so due. It's Death Valley. It's at night. It's so hard to go against LSU in Death Valley, and it's so hard to come out of there with a win. Like, it's not a lot of teams that's able to do that. So this game, it just really makes me waffle for those reasons. Like, I think A&M's better, but kind of like Graham's saying, the season's been a lot of who needs it, and LSU needs it. They need it. I mean, like Tripp said, coaching carousel. Like, you guys are all touching on all the points that I feel. It's just, I don't know who I think is going to win this game. Oh, dude, I really give me A&M in a close one. Maybe like a last minute drive kind of thing, whether it be a field goal, touchdown to seal it. Just give me A&M and a nail biter. Brian Kelly loses another depressing one.
All right,
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at that at all, Logan, because I think the winner of this game rides out with all the riches. Because Brian Kelly definitely going to be saying to all the fans and people who've been doubting him,
oh God,
he's going to let us have it, man.
That maniac. Yeah. So, well, that's pretty much it, guys.
Real quick, Joey. Last time College Game Day. Whoa, what?
Oh, I thought you were about to say your thing. My bad.
Oh, no, we're still tied for it. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
No, last time that Vandy hosted Game Day was 2008. They hosted the Auburn Tigers at the end of the first quarter. Auburn was up 13-0. Vandy ended up winning 14-13. It was number 19 Vandy against 13 Auburn. Vandy was 5-0. So a little stat right there for the end, just because I just wanted to. You had me curious because I thought I saw 08, but you had me second guessing it. But yeah, 2008.
I was just saying it wasn't James Franklin.
Okay.
Coach Bobby Johnson.
I would say maybe it was before his time, but either way, yeah, crazy Vanderbilt's getting it.
We'll see how it goes. Well, everybody, as always, appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back for an NFL episode this week. That ain't it, everybody. Again, thank you so much. Peace.
Peace.